How to Create a Glitch, Monologues, Season 2, Chapter 7. This is the 7th episode of the second season of How to Create a Glitch in the Matrix, Monologues. In this episode I'll be talking about two ideas. In the first, I'll be drawing a link between gateways, the celestial rhythms, archetypal constellations and the zodiac. To start out, archetypal constellations were described as arrangements, or rather, relationships between archetypes, which each individual maintains as part and parcel of their archetypal gateways, or alignments. It was also explained in a previous episode how individuals can form gateways relative to certain celestial objects. The examples given were the moon and the sun. For example, two individuals who form a common orientation relative to the moon using any given behavior create a gateway between their unconscious minds, which manifests as continuity between their unconscious behaviors. However, this idea can be taken deeper still. Essentially, individuals maintain common behaviors at certain times and locations, and more importantly, at certain ages or in certain stages of their lives. As an individual ages, they exhibit certain behaviors at certain ages, and these common ages for certain behaviors represent the creation of gateways between those individuals. Thus, we can say that individuals born at similar times will exhibit greater overlap in their behaviors given common ages and developmental rates, creating further continuity between their unconscious minds as gateways form, giving credence to the impact of zodiac constellations. Now, the apparent link between archetypal constellations, the zodiac and the celestial rhythms are not, however, mere happenstance but rather reflect the fact that these three things describe the edge and two faces of a single coin. The zodiac tells us that certain qualities are linked to certain periods of the calendar year being common among individuals. But the zodiac is just part and parcel of one of the celestial rhythms, the solar cycle. Likewise, zodiac signs reflect extrasolar constellations. For example, in the case of Virgo, we know that the Sun is passing through the constellation of Virgo from the vantage point of the Earth during the period which is commonly attributed to the zodiac Virgo. What I am essentially saying is, individuals born under Virgo mirror each other's developmental milestones, do so because they share a common gateway, a common orientation relative to the Virgo constellation. I am also saying that archetypes are merely the deconstruction of a given celestial rhythm. If we could deconstruct every celestial rhythm, we would see that every archetypal alignment, every archetypal form, is linked to a celestial body or bodies. Archetypal gateways can thus also be called celestial gateways. And archetypal constellations can thus also be called celestial constellations. For example, the Chinese zodiac uses the lunar cycle in the same fashion. If it were possible to develop a zodiac for every celestial body, one could break down the full gamut of human personality into a finite number of cycles or rhythms, which would reliably predict the archetypal alignments of a given person reduced to the movement of so many planets and stars. It would be necessary to construct a zodiac corresponding to each celestial cycle. For example, the lunar, Chinese zodiac, the solar, zodiac, the planetary, the galactic, etc., which is beyond the purview of this podcast. The second idea expands upon some of the ideas explained in Season 2, Episode 4. Namely, that when one individual mirrors another individual, there is a transformation of those individuals' archetypal constellations onto each other. This makes sense because when individuals mirror each other, that is, relative to some object, for the time they mirror, they may also share certain celestial gateways. Thus, this commonality creates continuity between their behavior and those whom they mirror. Likewise, constellations become objects of significance to social actors as understood in Season 2, Episode 4, wherein we saw that they become a representation in the mind of the actor, or rather, they become ideal, and thus become a prerequisite for the continued passage from one moment to the next relative to the other constellations. They become objects of significance or sieves of probability within the system. Anyway, that's the end of this episode. If you enjoyed it, please like, comment and subscribe.